Okay, let's do this. It is the reason for the season. Snowdown 2017 has officially started yesterday. So we're going to start off with what everyone really wants right up front is what champions should you pick, what champions should you ban. So what a lot of people are doing right now is they're picking a lot of these poke champions, which are pretty good. So being able to get out your damage reliably before a fight actually starts. So think your Vel'Koz, your Lux, your Zoe, your Xerath. People that have that long range ability to do really high damage. Also, you can go for something more of a front-loaded damage character. So who's able to get out their damage when they go in super quickly, and then they can kind of just die and they've kind of already done their job. So for instance, like an Annie, a Viger who's good just because of his stun alone, but he's also able to do a QWR and kill someone most likely pretty quickly. Or someone like a Syndra, Graves, people that are high damage right up front. You can either go for slippery characters. So, for instance, a Lucian or Ezreal who's able to dash around inside the fights and really create their own safety and mobility there. Or in terms of characters that use invisibility, so Twitch appearing from some creative angles and really opening up with his ultimate, or Wukong being able to go invis, dash into your backline, and either disrupting them or causing them to really just die if he builds full damage. And then another class that I really want to talk about is tank, which I don't see too many people playing right now, and they really should be, because tanks are really, really good in this game mode, simply because your summoner spells are set. So you can only travel to the Poro King, and you can only throw your Poro and travel to that. So there's no flash, or exhaust, or ignite, or heal. So for a tank, like let's say an Udyr, an Ornn, your Darius, Garen, Rammus, it's really easy for them to get right on top of you by throwing and hitting you with a Poro and then traveling to it. But then it's also incredibly hard for you to get away because you can't flash out, you can't heal out. So you really have to rely on your own team to either save you or you just kind of die. On kind of the gray scale of these champions, I think are really hit or miss is assassins. I've seen assassins like a Katarina, a Kali, Zed, Talon. I've seen them go in and do either extremely well in games or extremely poorly, or sometimes both, where they're able to like completely demolish a fight, but then when it comes down to the game-winning fight, well, they're kind of useless because they just get CC'd and die. So I would try and avoid assassins. They're very, very hit and miss. They're incredibly risky to play, especially since you're picking blind, so you have no idea if you're picking into a lot of hard CC that'll just completely shut you down, or a bunch of tanks, or a bunch of squishies. So really, it's kind of up to you. If you feel super confident on an assassin and you know that you can make it work regardless of the fight conditions or who you're against, okay, go for it. But if you're kind of on the fence of like, oh, should I play Zed or someone else? I'd go with someone else just because it's a lot less risky. Overall, I think champions to avoid in this game mode are really champions that need quite a bit of protection to do well. So for instance, like an Ashe, she's low mobility, sure she has her ult and her frost shot and everything, but if you get hit by a Poro and jumped on, there's not really too much you can do about it. Also, just how her Q works, if you don't have that time to get those stacks on your Q to actually activate it, you can't use it, so there's no point in actually having that ability, so she doesn't do too well. Like a Kog'Maw, which can either do super well if he's just kind of left alone, but also if a assassin or a Wukong or a Annie or someone jumps on him, he just dies. So what I think that a lot of people need to kind of like work on it and understand a bit better is that team comp still does matter. You still do want an engage. You still do want a bit of a frontline, a bit of peel. I've seen so many times people go into games where they don't have a lot of CC, and another team with a tank like a Nautilus or a Rammus or something can just run it into their faces and they can't really do much about it. So you can be like super great and have like this super fed Kog'Maw, but if he gets caught out by a snowball or something, he's fucking dead. And you need basically, you want at least one person on your team to be playing probably a melee tank, or if you're not, all of you want to be having quite a bit of hard CC so that you're able to effectively kite backwards and still live. So in terms of, that's champions. In terms of runes, really it plays very, very similar to how ARAMs play, so I'm gonna attach a link to my ARAM rune guide. There'll be a link somewhere where you guys can check that out. In terms of like general strategy, I think a lot of people need to be throwing their snowballs quite a bit more. People need to be paying a bit more attention in terms of dodging the snowballs. One also little segue here is that the minions spawn at 40 seconds. So if you are like leaving an AFK for the loading screen, you need to be back within those first like 20 seconds to buy and walk to lane, or else your team's immediately at a disadvantage. A lot of games start with quite a few kills because of the mark and the lack of like flash and stuff. You really have to be there when you load in. So just don't go AFK. It's really annoying. But yeah, keep throwing your snowballs, keep dodging your snowballs, and make sure that you get the Poro King. Now, when it comes to the Poro King and the Poro King snacks, what's good? Well, we're going to start with the one that I think is by far the best, which is the Spicy Snack, which effectively gives him a Rumble Flame Spitter. It does crazy high damage, melts minion waves, can melt champions, and it does damage to tower, which is actually like super huge. If you're able to lock an enemy champion down in the Flame Spitter, it'll do a crazy amount of damage, and it's just super good for its pushing capabilities alone. The second one that I'll talk about is the Espresso Snack. I think that this one's pretty good just because he jumps forward, he gains that shield, which is nice for keeping the Poro King alive, giving him some extra longevity, and is really good for like disrupting things. So for instance, if an MF is ulting, he can jump forward, knock her back, and, well, there goes her ult. It's also really good for zoning, so if they're, like, all kind of, like, taking pot shots at Poro King behind a tower, you pop this, he jumps, gets a shield, and you're able to take that tower a bit better. And then the final two, which I think are honestly kind of similar, is the Super Party Snack and the Icy Snack, or Frosty Snack, whatever it's called. Of course, the Party Snack does pull enemies closer to you, but honestly, if you're like decently mechanically skilled and have a low enough ping, for both of these, you can completely dodge any of the damage if you're just paying attention and if you only really have that to worry about. So it's good for zoning, but I'd say that once you're playing with more mechanically skilled players, these don't really do all that much aside from zoning. Although if you do engage a fight while under the effect of like a party or icy, then it can be really good because, well, they have to dodge champion abilities and these things falling from the sky. But if it's just going to be thrown out, I don't think it's all that useful. And I guess that's my overall strategy guide for the Poro King game mode. Let me know what you thought of this guide. Any tips, tricks, corrections, anything that you think about this, leave them down in the comments down below. Feel free to toss a like on this video just so that I know if this content's good and if this is shit that you like and whatnot. But as always, see you guys in game.